And welcome to the Aaron Katsman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katsman. We speak to you about your life, your money, and your investments. And as always, we're coming to you from the spiritual and soon-to-be financial capital of the world, Jerusalem, Israel. If you like this, please hit the like button below. I beg you. Okay, we need likes. And if you've not yet done so, please subscribe to both our YouTube channel and to the podcast. We're continuing on our series of entrepreneurship in Israel. And it's my pleasure today to bring on the show Elisheva Hudson, who is a documentary filmmaker with more than 15 years of experience. She's worked globally in both promotional and documentary spheres. After receiving her master's, she came to Israel and created Hudson Films, a company that helps businesses and nonprofits increase their visibility and impact through powerful story-driven films. That's really interesting. She's passionate about bringing a more authentic and story-driven approach to the promotional film world and breaking down how we interact with our audiences. Elisheva Hudson, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So what is, first of all, a documentary filmmaker, and what is it now sort of that you're doing to help nonprofits and businesses on sort of the video side of things?
Good question. Okay, so it's a big question. What is a documentary filmmaker? So my background is in more long-form documentary. When I actually did go to film school for it, many people are self-taught, but I happen to be one of those people that did actually go to school for it. So when I was in school, it was more long-form filmmaking, whether that's anywhere from like a 20-minute film to a 2-hour film, something like that. So we really learned about how you put together a story technically. How do you film something? How do you make different choices? And of course, always thinking about your audience. Who cares about this? Why do they care about it? And how can we make the most compelling story? Now, in terms of my business today and what that sort of means, when I first started my business, I was really just trying to see, we'll probably get into this later, but in Israel, can I even stay in this field? Is that something I can do? So I started freelancing. I started sort of feeling the waters, and I was like, okay, so I'll just take any sort of promotional, if someone's willing to pay me to do something in film, I'm willing to do it. So I took any sort of job. And after a while, as I was trying to develop my business, I was really trying to think like, what unique thing do I have to bring to the industry? And I was like, wait, I studied documentary. I could do this. I think for so long, I was operating under the mindset that it could either be I'm doing something I enjoy and not get paid for it, making documentaries, or I could get paid for promotional content. So I was like, wait, why don't I meld them? So I started creating this more documentary style promotional video, which is ultimately something I believe in, which is that the more engaging a story is, that the better off, the more your audience will connect to it, the more you will increase sales, increase funds, whatever it is you're looking to do.
And when you're doing for nonprofits, those are like the videos we'll see for like a nonprofit, who's fundraising, those kinds of things, or you're just explanatory videos about what the organization actually does?
So there's a lot of different options. I think when it comes to nonprofits, this documentary style really speaks to them, because if you're trying to, let's say, fundraise, you have an event, you have a dinner, something like that. So it's very clear that this style is really compelling for them, because for many nonprofits, let's say they help a lot of people. So one of the options could be, let's show one of the people or one of the stories of the people that we've helped, how we've impacted them. There are other type of videos as well that could be a little bit more explainer style. Maybe they want to show their impact through statistics, through data. And even if that is something that they want to do, they want to have a more general overview of this is who we are, this is what we do. I'm always trying to find what is the story within that people will connect to, because statistics and numbers can be very powerful. But if that was all you needed, you could put out an infographic. The power of video is that people are watching it, they're listening to it, and you really have the opportunity to profile a person, an event, a situation, a story. So the goal, the objective is really, who is this audience? Why do they care? And what story are they going to connect to most? And that's really the process of putting together these films, whether it's for a nonprofit, for a business, for somebody else, whatever it is.
How did you start getting clients? I assume that would have been, you starting a business here, and we're going to get in more in the entrepreneurial thing later on, but it's curious to me, how did you, you sort of took the leap. How did you start, how did you start actually getting clients?
Yeah, so I took the approach, maybe it was a little bit of a safer approach, I don't know. I had a salary job and I was
Mhm.
interested in getting back into filming. So what I did is, I think I was anywhere from like 20 to 30 hours a week at that job. I went part-time and I started freelancing just to see if there was a need. Now the question being like, how did I even get those clients to begin with? I think in the beginning, what I did is I just started creating some video content, like helpful how-to videos. Maybe I did this Friday mornings when my kids were at school and I didn't have work, or I don't remember what it was, but I somehow like once a week or once every couple of weeks just tried to create some video, like how to use text in a video, how to do this, how to do that. They were really simple. They were probably really, really bad videos, but the point was that it reminded people that I do something with video. And I remember the first person that came to me and recommended me, and she said, I recommended you to someone for a video. It was a really, really simple project. It wasn't super complicated and not necessarily in my eventual niche. But the reason she recommended me is because I had been posting on social media and I'd been posting videos. If I had not been doing that, there's no way she would have remembered that I even do video stuff or recommend me. So yeah, in the beginning, I think that was one of the biggest things, just to remind people I exist and I do video. They started recommending me.
So you use your own skill in order to you practice what you preach, so to speak. Basically, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
That's the best business card there is. So what is the process? Let's say somebody's got a business, right? And they turn to you and they want to tell their story, right?
Right.
So how does it work? You interview them, you ask probing questions to sort of, hit it what they're trying to accomplish, and then you create the video. Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so it can vary a little bit depending on the project and the client, but overall, what we start with is we start with a strategy session. It's usually we meet for about an hour over Zoom or something like this, and they have filled out some sort of form prior to us meeting. So I have a general idea about who their audience is, their business is, how long they've been around, some goals they have, that sort of thing. And we really deep dive into this further. So we talk about like, what are your goals? Have you made videos before? Were they successful? Were they not successful? I talk more about their business, what makes them unique. We may talk about some potential stories, but basically in that strategy session is really, really necessary in order to create something that's going to be effective for them, that meets their goals, all of that. After that session, I usually go away and I'll either put together an outline or even a script, depending on how scripted the video will be, that will go over what I will believe best serve their goals that they have. They go through, they approve that. Once that's approved, so we go into planning the production. So it could be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days of filming, depends on many factors. Sometimes we have to find locations, there's lots of moving parts. Coordinate the filming, do the filming, and then of course go into the editing process. So I take a certain amount of time to be able to create the edit, and then afterwards we go into revisions, because I think it's really important that the client is part of the process. Once the video is sort of done enough, I guess I would say, then we have a back and forth, give them a chance to have their voice, and then we finish up, actually in most cases, with a launch session. So I have a PDF on best practices for how to use your video, how to repurpose your video, and then we have a meeting also to discuss. And this is something I actually recently added on because I really felt like, I could make the most powerful video in the world, but if the right people don't see it, it's who cares?
Right.
So I
Exactly.
start to also, at least from my perspective, sometimes I work with directors of marketing who know so much, but I
Right.
still think there's something to be had from, let's discuss how you're putting this out, when, why, what's that going to look like, and also keep you from making some simple technical mistakes that many people make.
So you grew up, you told me, in Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you grew up, did you sort of dream? Did you always have that like fire in you that you wanted to have your own business? Did you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Like, what was it like then?
Okay, so I so never dreamed of running my own business. I still don't really think of myself as an entrepreneur, to be honest. So when I was in high school, really like the main thing that I did outside of just going to school was doing theater. And once it got to deciding like colleges and what I'm going to do, like I just had a sense like theater was not really going to be my thing. And anyways, when it came to working in theater, I always did more of like behind the scenes directing, that sort of thing, more than acting. And so TV and film just seemed like the gradual next step. Um, my dad kind of works in the business. He worked in like business management of TV broadcasting, that sort of thing. So it was like sort of there in the background,
Right.
although it's slightly different. And yeah, I started on my journey, and eventually I got more into documentary and all of that. Now, living in America, I think that my career might look much different. In the program that I did, the master's program, basically, as you can imagine, being a documentary filmmaker is not the most lucrative job out there. So what they also offer you is they offer you a teaching degree. So if I was in America, I actually have the credentials to teach at university. And what's typical for many filmmakers there, at least documentary filmmakers, is they'll get a job teaching. They'll teach maybe 2 days a week. They'll get summers off. And then on those hours, they get a steady salary. And then outside of that, they're making their own films, working on different productions, that sort of thing. But then I ended up coming to Israel, and things were a little bit different. My credentials for that didn't really apply over here, but I still wanted to figure out, could I still do filmmaking in some way? So from where I was at, being not 100% fluent in Hebrew, really still wanting to work in film and video, I actually did have, like I said, a salary job for a while, working as a video editor for a company. But after a while, I really missed filming. And sometimes when you work at companies, you tend to also make like the same type of video. So I kind of was wondering, oh, could I get into filming again? Could I do this? So I really started freelancing, not because I wanted to, create some new business or change the system, or felt like I had some new idea that I wanted to make money. I felt like it was honestly the only way for me, given my situation, that I could do what I wanted to do, is like make films. So it turns out that I do actually like running a business, and I enjoy some other aspects of it, but I never imagined being somebody that ran a business. And I really feel like I got into it because it just felt like the best option for me.
I hear that. I think of all these interviews we've heard, there may have been a couple of us. I put myself in it because, I'm the guy who mowed lawns and had a paper route and always sort of knew when I was young, was going to have my own business. But I think most of the people sort of fell into it. It wasn't planned, and it's very similar to your situation. That's really, really interesting. So I assume it took you a little bit of time to get established, right? And then 3.5 years ago, this pandemic of Corona happened.
Right.
How did that, I can imagine, how did that impact your business?
Well, let's see. I think I officially opened my teak, like 3 months before COVID hit or something like that, or the very beginnings of COVID, which was a great time to, decide I'm starting
Perfect timing, perfect timing.
I know. No, I think prior to that, like I had started doing some stuff, but I wasn't like officially just running a business and not working at my job until a little bit after that. Because I do feel like by the time, look, there's like different times that COVID hit. There's like, that first time where everyone's like, oh, it's not going to be a big deal, whatever it is. And then there's like, okay, when we're really in quarantine. So I was able to, in the beginning, like start to build up my business, and I still had a certain amount of jobs. We we obviously followed the rules best we could, but at certain periods, like I really could work on a, one-on-one basis. I had like smaller crews. We made sure we followed all the rules, what have you. And then when it got into more quarantine, so I think I continued with more editing work. So I was able to thankfully keep up my name, continue to do work. Also during COVID, I had a baby, so I went on maternity leave. So that kind of like took care of some of that time. And so I think that I was able to make it work. Thankfully, like I did have options within my job that I could do it remotely. Although long-term, like I do prefer to work on projects where I'm filming and editing and not just being an exclusive video editor. So it wasn't a long-term option for me, but I was very, very happy to at least have something to work with and do during that time.
You moved to Israel, right? Israel is there's a foreign culture. It's a foreign language, right? What's it like to navigate, the business, the technicalities of owning a business in a foreign country, in a foreign in a foreign language? Not just trying to create the business, but dealing with, the bureaucracy that comes along with having a business.
Yeah, so it's a lot of things that, living in a country whose culture is different to the one you grew up in, like lots of things to do there. I think part of, honestly, there are like pros and cons. Like, I think part of the reason I even run a business is because of the culture differences. And it seems like it's difficult to just work at some Israeli company where the mentality is different. So part of the reason I think that I run a business is because I can choose my clients. I can work with English-speaking clients abroad or English-speaking clients here. I have that option available to me. So that's A. But in terms of like technically running a business, I don't have so much to compare it to. It's not as though I was running a business in America, I come over here and then I compare it back and forth. But there obviously are challenges and difficulties. I think there are a lot of times where I do end up spending extra money because I just don't want to or don't know how to deal with certain things. One example just being like when you open your business, opening a team. So a lot of people say, oh, you don't need to pay the accountant to set it up for you. You could just go and go to these offices, blah, blah, blah. For me, I was like, too overwhelming for me. I'd rather just spend the money, have them take care of it and do that. You know, it's not that big of a charge, but it's choices like that. Like we all make choices. Sometimes we do have to end up spending more money or spending more time on something.
Right.
And there are other issues that come up as well. Like as an American citizen, so I have to pay higher taxes than somebody else who's just an Israeli citizen or maybe a British citizen. I don't know what they have to deal with, but there are things like that that just have to come up. So I think it does mean that you need to take these things into account. I think it also means that you need to work it out in terms of your like monthly financial goals that you make to make up for the fact that we pay these additional taxes. So yeah, there are challenges, but by and large, like I do feel like I can choose the community of people and clients that I work with.
You also feel, this is, I'm just speaking personally, right? That it's almost a driver to say, wow, like every now and then, I don't, you know, you don't think about it every day, but occasionally you think about,
Right.
wow, I actually have a business in Israel, right? And in this foreign country, and that's sort of cool.
That's crazy.
Right? That's really crazy. Do you ever think about that? And it's like gives you a sense of, I don't know, a sense of pride, a sense of accomplishment, whatever the word is.
Right. Yeah, it is really crazy. I think about it not just in terms of a business, but just like running my life. Like it is really crazy. Like it's just me and my like family in terms of my husband and kids. We both don't have any family here. So I think we're here, we're living here. And he ran a business for a while and then doesn't anymore. And now we're just a salaried person. We sort of like switched places. So we also dealt with a lot of those things. And it is really amazing just that we're making it to any extent, you know, as Americans living here, nobody like taught us how to do everything. We didn't grow up with this like mentality. So yeah, it is really amazing when you think about it, not just with business, but just in general.
In
It's not so
general,
simple to simply
in life.
feel comfortable here to do it. Like, you know, it doesn't work for everybody. And I get it.
Right. So we have a lot of prospective Olim, existing Olim, people have already come, who are, you know, kicking the can around whether they should open their own business or not. Do you have any tips that you have, or a tip or tips that you can give somebody who's thinking about opening up a business here?
It's a good question. I mean, there's a few different things, and obviously I can only speak from my perspective,
Right.
but I would say different industries can be very different. Like I mentioned before, I ran a business because I felt like, oh, doing freelance work and then eventually, you know, moving up from a freelancer to running a business, like this is the way to do what I want to do. But that's not the case with everyone. Some people run a business because they think that it's going to be the best way for them to make money, or because of other factors, because of a schedule that they want. You know, there are lots of reasons, different choices people make for running a business. But I would say in general, it's very important to do your work to educate yourself on whatever business that you have, like what it looks like. Because you may like doing something, but you may not realize, like, you know, speak to peers, speak to other people like in the industry, like what do those hours really look like? Is that really feasible for you? There's some businesses where you have to invest a lot upfront and it takes time to be able to see that back. There are other businesses where, you know, you're just having to work many hours just to set up the business. And so it takes a while before you can kind of create your own schedule. So I would say in general, just, you know, talk to people in the industry, what it's like for them, and really be realistic with yourself about what your personality is, what hours you want to put into it. I mean, I started my business like after I already had young kids. So I think I had 2 young kids, now I have 3 young kids. Like I wouldn't necessarily recommend that to somebody to start a business when you have young kids, but that's just like how it happened for me.
Right.
But you know, to like be realistic about your life and your schedule and do your research. But ultimately, you know, if it's something you feel like you want to do, just give it a shot. The worst that can happen is it doesn't work, and then you can
Doesn't
find a
work.
job.
Which brings me to my last question. What do you sort of view as the, you know, it never goes smoothly, right? There are always challenges, right? What's like a challenge that you faced or you continue to face, which, you know, you keep hurtling over it, right? You haven't let it get you down, but it's something that's sort of you know, the harder side, the less glamorous side. Do you have anything like
Yeah,
that?
I would say the hard thing for me about my business is the amount of time that you have to spend time doing things that are not what you do. The
Right.
amount of time that I spend doing things that is not actually making films, you know, like doing something with the filmmaking process is a lot. Whether that's like budgeting, managing your receipts, or like depending on what you count as your job or not your job, like social media, getting new clients, sales, onboarding, offboarding, dealing with business processes that make things smoother. Like that is a constant, I would say. And also just the reality of not having a consistent, at least with what I do, not every single month looks the same financially. And I've gone through different periods where, you know, I've been like, you know, it's my fault. And I bet if I change something and I bet if I did something, I can make it more consistent. But I think that there's also value in just being like, you know what, for what I do, this is just the reality. So don't get too excited if it's a little bit up here, and don't get too upset if it's a little bit down here. Like, you have to be willing to go with the flow. It is different than working at a company where you get a salary. And there are pros and cons to both, for sure. But I think that there are certain things you just need to be flexible on. And so, you know, not letting the difficult things sort of like break you down, I guess, and just being open to the fact that like things look different and that's okay. And continuing to work through it. So not anything like specific, I would say, but it's just like coming to terms with these realities that are maybe a little bit difficult, but like working through it.
Right. The biggest challenge is reality.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's pretty much in a nutshell. Elisheva, how can people get in touch with you?
Okay, so across social media, you can get in touch with me. I don't know where people are watching this, but I'm on LinkedIn, Elisheva Hudson. My website, hudsonfilmsdocustory.com. I guess I could give it to you in the comments. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram.
And we'll put up all those links also on the show. So
okay,
just find it.
Cool.
Elisheva, thank you so much for coming on. This is really, really interesting.
Pleasure. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You've been tuning in to the Erin Katsman Show, where we speak about your life, your money, and your investments. Please hit the like button below. And if you've not yet done so, please subscribe to both the podcast and to our YouTube channel. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you soon.